William Wallace. Outlaw, freedom fighter, and ultimately, martyr. But what do we actually know about him? Who was he really? Where did he come from? And what does it actually matter today? Welcome to Scotland Unplugged, and the story of Scotland's greatest hero. Just outside Stirling, on top of the Abbey Craig, you'll find the National Wallace Monument, a memorial to Wallace's most famous victory at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. There's quite a lot going on in there, including the tightest staircase I've ever seen, Wallace's sword, which is possibly not Wallace's sword, pictures, letters, weaponry, real historical stuff, and a film about the battle itself. I had visions of filming from the top, telling you about the battle from way up high. You know the kind of thing. Maybe a bit cheesy, but it was a bit busy and a bit blowy. Best laid plans and all that. It's June 1297. Edward I of England has just invaded Scotland, disposed of the King John Balliol, sent him to the Tower of London, and garrisoned his own troops throughout the land. He's also acquired a new nickname, the Hammer of the Scots. But a rebel alliance, this really does sound like the start of a Star Wars film. Maybe I should just have done it writing. William Wallace has just sacked the town of Lanark, killing Edward's sheriff, William de Hesselrig, possibly as an act of revenge for murdering his wife, who may or may not have existed. Then he teamed up with William the Hardy, the Lord of Douglas. The pair have raided the ancient town of Scone, the seat of Scottish kings. This is the Moot Hill, home to the Stone of Destiny. Well, it's a replica, but it's pretty similar. The original had been taken by Edward when he came north and sent to Westminster Abbey to be placed in a chair. This wall is all that's left of the town as it was. Scone was the heart of Scotland in the minds of the people. If sacking Lanark was a first strike, this was doubling down. He carried on raiding, using the Forest of Ettrick as a base. This was guerrilla warfare. It's at this point that we meet someone who's always left out of the story. He certainly doesn't pop up in Braveheart. With all the hoohtery, choohtery, kilt stuff going on, there's a bit of a homogenisation of Scottish culture, but it's worth remembering that the Highlands and the Lowlands were, and are, very different. Always have been. If William Wallace was the figurehead for the uprising in the Lowlands, Andrew Murray was his Highland equivalent. Not that one. It's thought the pair finally met up at the Siege of Dundee in early September, leading to their most famous victory. On the 11th of September, an army led by Wallace and Murray met an English force that outnumbered them significantly. Over there behind me, you can just about make out a set of rugby posts. This is Stirling County Rugby Club, scene of many a battle, but in particular, they reckon this is where the Battle of Stirling Bridge actually took place. The home team were up on the Abbey Craig there behind me, where the monument sits now. The away team, meanwhile, were garrisoned up on the hill in the castle. The English army, led by John de Warenne, the Earl of Surrey, was gathered on the other side of the Forth. In those days, Stirling was the key to Scotland. It's right in the middle between the Lowlands and the Highlands, and at that time it was the only place you could cross the Forth easily. Except, you couldn't cross it that easily. This is Stirling Bridge. The old Stirling Bridge. Not the old bridge in Stirling, the actual bridge in the battle is long gone. It was about 180 yards that way and went at a kind of a diagonal. It was quite a slim bridge. It would only have allowed for 3 foot soldiers or 2 knights on horseback at the same time, which was kind of a good thing for Wallace and Murray. So the Earl of Surrey got here and waited, trying to decide what to do. He could send his army over, but that might take a while. Or he could send them upriver and cross them in a shallow area. Step forward, Hugh de Cressingham, Edward's hated treasurer, a man tasked with reducing Scotland as far as possible and known for having Scots prisoners flayed. Cressingham advised him not to go upriver and instead to lead his army across the bridge. Now, the law of chivalry dictated that really you should just wait until the opposing army crossed the bridge and lined up, ready to do battle. Anything else just wasn't cricket. I know what you're thinking. Wallace and Murray did wait until just the right number had crossed. Enough of De Warren's force was committed, but at a level their own army could handle. And then they attacked. They overcame the force easily, forcing some of them back onto the bridge. Blind Harry has it that Wallace had a right who had tampered with the bridge, installing a hinge. And that was why it collapsed, taking a big chunk of Edward's army with it. In reality, the bridge could have been razed to the ground by the Earl of Surrey when he fled the scene. Hugh de Cressingham came to a sticky end. The English chronicles say he was flayed as an act of revenge and that his skin was tanned and used to make souvenirs of the battle. Wallace was said to have had a strip cut from head to heel and had that fashioned into a baldric, a belt for carrying his sword. This might not have actually happened. Sometime afterwards, Wallace was knighted, possibly by Robert the Bruce, and Wallace and Murray were made joint guardians of Scotland. But Murray had been mortally wounded in the battle and didn't see the end of November, which possibly explains why he isn't remembered so well by history. Wallace marched his army south, across the border into Cumberland and Northumberland on a sort of crazy, frenzied gap year, causing as much mayhem as possible, until the harshness of the winter drove him back north of the border. It's kind of hard to imagine how harsh a winter would have to be that it drove you into Scotland. Meanwhile, Longshanks was not a happy bunny. He'd been in France, concluding a peace treaty with King Philip IV. When he returned, he had the royal hump and a sense of purpose. He set about organising his troops for a second invasion. In the beginning of 1298, he marched his army north. Only this time, he wouldn't be getting anyone else to lead it. It's mad to think this all happened right here, where I'm walking. Such a fundamental bit of Scottish history. Who we were as a country, who we became as a country, and who we are as a country. Feels like we need a voice with a bit more gravitas.